My wife, Sarah, 32F, isn't just a shopper. She's an archivist, a curator. For the last 7 years, Sarah has been building a collection of vintage designer handbags and accessories that would make a fashion museum jealous. We aren't talking about outlet mall finds. We are talking about a 1985 Chanel classic flap in pristine lambskin, a limited edition Louis Vuitton trunk from the 90s, and the crown jewel, a vintage Hermes Kelly bag she spent 3 years tracking down in an auction house in Tokyo. She keeps them in a custom-built walk-in closet in our master bedroom. It's climate-controlled. The bags sit on glass shelves, lit by soft LEDs, stuffed with acid-free tissue paper to hold their shape. The total value is easily over $50,000, but to Sarah, they are priceless. They represent her passion, her savvy investing, and the hard work she puts into her career as a corporate attorney. I love seeing her in there. She glows when she talks about the stitching or the history of a specific clasp. Then there is my sister-in-law, Becky, 30F. Becky is married to my younger brother, Mike. Becky is difficult. She is the kind of person who counts other people's money. If we buy a new car, she asks how much the monthly payment is. If we go on vacation, she makes snide comments about how must be nice to not have real responsibilities. We don't have kids yet, they have 2. Becky has always hated Sarah's collection. She calls it vanity trash. I could feed a family of 4 for a year with what that bag costs, she said once, pointing at a Celine tote. It's an investment, Becky, I defended Sarah. It retains value better than gold. Becky just rolled her eyes. It's selfish. That's what it is. Last Sunday, we hosted a family barbecue. The weather was perfect. Mike and I were grilling steaks on the patio. My parents were playing with the grandkids in the yard. Sarah was inside making salads. Becky arrived in a foul mood. She complained about the traffic. She complained that our house was too big for 2 people. Before dinner, Sarah made the mistake of showing my mom her latest find, a vintage Dior saddlebag she had restored herself. "Oh, it's beautiful," my mom gushed. Becky stood in the doorway of the kitchen, sipping her wine, her eyes narrowing into slits. "Another one." Becky sneered. "Don't you have enough? God, it's obsessed. Do you ever think about donating that money to charity instead of hoarding leather?" Sarah, being the classy woman she is, just smiled. "I donate plenty, Becky. This is my hobby. Everyone has one." "My hobby is raising children," Becky snapped. "But I guess some of us have different priorities." The tension was thick, but we managed to get through dinner. Afterward, we all moved to the back patio to have coffee and watch the sunset. The mood finally relaxed. We were laughing at a story my dad was telling. About 20 minutes in, I noticed Becky wasn't there. "Where's Becky?" I asked Mike. "Oh, she went to use the restroom," Mike said, not looking up from his phone. "She's been gone a while, actually. Probably hiding from the kids." He laughed. I frowned. The guest bathroom is downstairs, right off the kitchen. But I hadn't seen the light go on. I had a bad feeling. A really bad feeling. I stood up. "I'm going to grab more ice," I lied. I walked into the kitchen. The guest bathroom door was open. Empty. I walked into the living room. Empty. Then, I heard a sound coming from upstairs. Our master bedroom is the only room upstairs. It is strictly off-limits to guests. We keep the door closed. I walked to the foot of the stairs. I heard it again. It wasn't the sound of a toilet flushing. It was a sharp, repetitive scratching sound, like a knife dragging across fabric, followed by the sound of glass shattering. My stomach dropped. I took the stairs 2 at a time. The door to our master bedroom was wide open. The door to Sarah's closet, the sanctuary, was ajar. "Becky!" I called out, my voice booming. The noise stopped instantly. I pushed the closet door open. I didn't scream. I couldn't. The air just left my lungs in a rush, as if I had been punched in the gut. Becky was standing in the middle of the closet. She was holding a pair of heavy-duty fabric scissors, the ones Sarah uses for sewing. And the room, the beautiful, pristine room, looked like a crime scene. The first thing I noticed wasn't the bags. It was the red wine. Becky had brought a glass of Cabernet upstairs with her. It was spilled all over the white carpet of the closet floor. soaking into the dust bags and the bottom of the shelves. But the wine was the least of the damage. My eyes adjusted to the horror. The glass shelves were swept clean. The bags were on the floor in a heap. The vintage Hermes Kelly, the one Sarah spent 3 years finding, was sitting in a puddle of wine. But it wasn't just stained. A deep, jagged slash ran diagonally across the front leather panel. It had been gutted like a fish. The 1985 Chanel Classic flap? The chain strap had been cut with bolt cutters or heavy scissors, and the quilted lambskin was shredded in a way that looked frenzied. The Louis Vuitton trunk was gouged deep with key scratches. Every single bag, all 20 of them, had been touched, slashed, stained, or stomped on. "Becky," I whispered, stepping into the room. My hands were shaking so hard I had to clench them into fists to stop myself from doing something I'd regret. What is this?" Becky turned to look at me. She didn't look scared. She didn't drop the scissors. She took a slow sip from her wine glass, which she had apparently refilled before coming up here. "Oh," she said, her voice dripping with fake innocence. "I was just looking." I stumbled. "The glass is so slippery." "You stumbled?" I yelled, my voice finally finding its strength. "You stumbled and slashed a leather bag with fabric shears? You stumbled 20 times." "I don't know what happened," she shrugged, a smirk playing on her lips. "It's all so cluttered in here. You really should organize better." At that moment, Sarah appeared in the doorway behind me. She must have heard me yelling, "Up! What's going?" She stopped. She looked past me. She saw the pile of ruined leather. She saw the wine. She saw the Kelly bag. Sarah didn't scream. She didn't cry. She made a sound like a wounded animal, a sharp intake of breath that sounded like she was physically dying. She fell to her knees, crawling toward the Hermes bag. She touched the slashed leather with trembling fingers. "My bags," she whimpered. "My Kelly." Mike, my brother, ran in next. "What is all the yelling, AB? Oh my God." He looked at the destruction. He looked at his wife, who was still holding the scissors. "Becky," Mike asked, his face pale. "Did you do this?" Becky rolled her eyes. She actually rolled her eyes. "Oh, stop being so dramatic, all of you," she snapped. "It's just stuff. It's dead cow skin. Look at Sarah, crying on the floor like a baby. It's pathetic. This is $50,000 of property. Ihr hoarder here. You destroyed it." "So what?" Becky yelled back, the mask finally dropping completely. "You have plenty of money. You can just buy more. Must be nice to have 50 grand to waste on purses while Mike and I are struggling to pay for daycare. You throw it in our faces every time we come here." "We don't throw anything in your face." I shouted. "Sarah worked for these. This is her passion. It's vanity." Becky spat. "It's disgusting greed. Honestly, I did you a favor. Now maybe you can focus on something that actually matters, like family, instead of worshipping these idols. You should be thanking me for the reality check." She looked down at Sarah, who was cradling the ruined Chanel bag, tears streaming down her face. "Get up, Sarah," Becky sneered. "Stop embarrassing yourself. It's just a purse. Go buy another one at TJ Maxx. Nobody will know the difference." I looked at my brother. "Get her out," I said, my voice low and dangerous. "Get her out of my house before I call the police." "You aren't calling the police," Becky laughed. "For what? An accident? I told you, I tripped." "I'm calling them," I said, pulling out my phone. "And I'm pressing charges for felony destruction of property." Becky's smirk faltered for a second. "You wouldn't. I'm family." "Not anymore," I said. Becky thought I was bluffing about the police. She kept smirking right up until 2 officers walked into our master bedroom. When they saw the closet, one officer actually let out a low whistle. "This looks like a crime scene," he muttered. "It is," I said. "She did it." I pointed to Becky, who was finally starting to look nervous. "It was an accident," she tried again. "I tripped, and I had scissors because I was looking for a loose thread." The officer said, pointing to the Hermes bag. "You can't trip and slice a bag open horizontally. That is intentional damage." They took a report. They took photos. They didn't arrest her on the spot. Property crimes often require an investigation first, but they issued a case number for felony criminal mischief. The appraisal. The next week was heartbreaking. I hired a specialized appraiser for luxury goods. He came to the house with white gloves and a magnifying glass. He spent 4 hours documenting the carnage. "This is tragic," he told us. "The Kelly bag, it's a total loss. The Chanel might be repairable by a specialist in Paris, but the value is diminished by 80%. The limited edition Vuitton trunk? Ruined." The final appraisal of damages, $58,400. The lawsuit. I didn't wait for the criminal case. I filed a civil lawsuit against Becky and Mike. Since they are married, Mike's assets were fair game too. When they got served with the lawsuit, Mike called me. He was crying. "OP, please," he begged. "We can't afford this. We have a mortgage. We have kids. Becky is sorry. She's going to therapy. Can't we just settle this within the family?" "Becky isn't sorry," I said coldly. She laughed at Sarah while she was crying on the floor. She called her pathetic. "That wasn't an accident, Mike. That was hate. And hate carries a price tag." "But 58,000. Mike choked. "That's our entire savings. That's the kids' college fund." "Then maybe Becky shouldn't have destroyed $58,000 of property," I said. "You stood by and let her bully Sarah for years. You laughed when she made snide comments. You enabled this." I refused to drop the suit. The verdict. We went to court. Becky's defense was a joke. She tried to argue that the bags were just old used items and shouldn't be valued at current market prices. The judge, looking at my appraiser's detailed report, shut her down immediately. Judgment for the plaintiff. $58,400 plus legal fees. The aftermath. They didn't pay. Becky refused. She posted on Facebook about how her greedy in-laws were trying to bankrupt her over some purses. So, I enforced the judgment. I garnished Mike's wages. I levered their bank account. The day the Levi hit, Becky called me screaming. My card was declined at the grocery store. "You monster. My kids need to eat." "Your kids can eat," I said. "You just might have to shop at the discount store. You know, like you told Sarah to do." Mike ended up filing for divorce 3 months later. Apparently, the financial strain, combined with the realization that his wife was genuinely malicious, was too much. He is currently living in an apartment, paying me monthly installments. Becky moved back in with her parents. She is facing criminal probation for the felony charge. As for Sarah, she is slowly rebuilding. We used the first payout from the judgment to buy a new bag, a vintage Chanel, pristine and beautiful. She keeps the closet locked now, but every time we walk past it, we smile. Not because of the bags, but because we know that sometimes justice is the ultimate luxury item.